Awesome. Well, let's get started. Hope everyone is doing well, staying healthy, staying safe. And let's open it up. Who has had some success stories with their business this week?
Well, we live, we're the properties that we actually have seem to be selling. We had multiple offers on one. We listed it a week ago, last Thursday, not quite a week, in Villebois. I think Jenny had the same experience. We had multiple offers within 4 hours. I just talked to the appraiser this morning and asked him to tighten his time frame for me meeting him at the house. He said he couldn't because I was his 5th appraisal of the day. So
great. Did you guys do anything different with the offers or any different terms because of what's going on?
Yeah, they were both overpriced, over list. So things are moving. And Mark, you're making me dizzy, baby. I'm trying to follow.
That's great, Peter. Jenny, do you want to share your similar success story about Villebois?
Oh, I just had a listing go live today, so that was my success to share. That I kept them together and they sold. So I'm excited about that.
That's great. I mean, we're still doing business. People are still listing. Who else had some success?
I have a closing today.
Yay! Yay!
Tried something new that.
I have a question. I forgot it. I'll come back.
I think that was Mark trying to talk.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I tried something. I've tried something new at my three. I had 3 new listings.
Connie, let's do your part.
And for each of them, I. On the surface or document. What it's done is it has.
Anybody else not hear him?
I can't hear him. He's
I
breaking up.
can't hear him.
Hey, Mark, you're breaking up. You might have to step off the treadmill.
Austin, mute everybody except for Mark.
Okay, is that better?
Now
Yes.
we see you. Oh, there you go again.
All right. I'll try this. I'll walk away from the treadmill. So what I'm doing is I have this document that's been uploaded for each of my 3 listings that went live last week. And what I have is a list of all the agents from RMLS who've accessed that document. And so this morning I went through all 3 listings, got the list of which agents had looked at that document. And then this morning I called each of them to say, hey, this is Mark from Keller Williams. I saw that you looked at the showing protocol for my listing. Did you or your buyer have any questions? Since you probably can't go see it in person, do you have any questions that I can answer for you? And sadly, of the 17, for one of the listings, there were 17 agents who looked at it. I only reached 3 of them by phone. All the others have left voice messages. But one of them definitely was interested and we had a good exchange. So that's something new that I tried.
That's great. I love that. So make sure you're uploading a document.
Where is it? Which document?
That's the one. It's called Showing Protocol. It's out in Happy Valley on Kimberly Court. I've also uploaded a floor plan for the house as well. So any agents who access either the Showing Protocol or the floor plan, I get that list of agents who viewed that document, and I can then follow up with them.
I do the same thing, Mark. I've done that for a long time so that I can see who's looking at it. View counts helps, but specific agents is awesome.
That's great. Let's hear, I think Connie was trying to share something with us, and Austin, you might need to unmute her.
Marcellus.
I lost her. I'm trying to find her. It just disappeared on the list. I don't know if she backed out. Let's see.
So I have a question for Amy. Is anybody doing anything else besides just showing protocol for buyers? Buyers.
Hello?
Hi,
I
Connie.
have
Wait,
a
Peter,
showing-
table that because we're going to talk more about that in a sec. Connie, let's hear it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I have a coming soon coming today and another one just listed, and I'm closing another 3 in a few weeks, but I also lost 2, so I'm feeling some impact there too.
Wow, that's a ton of activity. The 2 that you lost, are they postponed?
No, well, one of them said that they would revisit it after the debacle is somewhat slowed down. It's because of the inspections. They didn't want to have additional inspections on what was recommended by the first inspector because it's just too complicated right now to have people come and do the inspections with the tenant there. And then the other one, unfortunately backed down, but I was able to reduce the price by $67,000, but the buyer still didn't take it because of economic loss in stocks.
Well, that is challenging because there's some of them that are just gonna, we're gonna miss out on, but the fact that you had so many others that you're having great success with. Did you guys hear that?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Connie. And what's happening a little bit when multiple people talk at the same time, the way Zoom's audio works is that only one person can be heard. So that's why sometimes we're not hearing people if a couple people are trying to speak at the same time. Who else had some success this week?
I would describe what I was doing. We've got contractors working at a couple of different homes right now, trying to get them ready to close. One's closing. We talked about moving closing dates up. So we have one transaction that was put together about 10, 12 days ago, maybe 2 weeks now. And it was scheduled to close April 26th. The buyers are renting. My seller said, hey, I can be out long before then. And so the talk right now is to close around April 1st to April 3rd. And so my seller's excited, the buyers are excited, the lender looks like he can get it done on time. So what I've been doing this week is literally going over this house and meeting various contractors there to try and get some things done. We've got a radon issue we're trying to figure out. We've got, earthquake strapping, visqueen in the crawl space that needs to be pulled out, all kinds of things. And so they're ongoing. Plus we have one that's coming on the market hopefully Friday, and the hardwood floors are being done today. So, I mean, there's a lot of activity going on, and we can leave our homes and we can go, meet with people and monitor people. We're just making sure we're having our 6 feet of social distancing, and it's working fine. So thought I'd share that in case anyone's not thinking that way right now.
Peter Clark.
All right, mute Peter.
Thanks for sharing, Dwight. And then Mark, I don't think Mark Fox is on. Do you want to share from what Mark shared with you, Dwight?
Yeah, hold on. Let me pull it up. So Mark sent me a text this morning, and he wasn't sure he could be on the call today or Friday, but he wanted to share this. It said, I hope everyone is well. Not sure I'll be able to be on the call today or Friday, but wanted to share some activity stats with you. They're absolutely crazy stats. Over the last 7 days between Vancouver team and the Portland team, the Mark Fox group has done, they brought 10 new properties on the market. They've received and made 6 offers. They've put 5 properties in escrow, and they've closed and recorded on 9 homes. And so this is literally like the last 7 days. And so the message that he said he's trying to get out in this crisis is it's absolutely terrible, but it is a medical crisis that will cause a recession. And then remember that those words, that will cause a recession. I'll address those later. But he also says it's definitely not a housing or real estate market crisis. And so, you know, folks, what that means is that, you know, there are plenty of people out there that want to continue to get their home sold and get moved in this environment. In fact, it's, you know, a wind at our backs to some degree if we can identify the people that are really anxious to get it done. So I talked to 2 builders yesterday, and both of them said all their subs are working and they are going for it. And so, you know, they've all talked about the urgency of continuing to work and get their jobs done in case all of this real estate activity gets deemed non-essential activity. And so, you know, I think that's the mode that we all should be operating in, because it is highly likely. Leadership was just on a call, and there are several states. See, I made notes of them. Michigan, California, New York, Massachusetts, Maui have all deemed, there may be others, have all deemed real estate non-essential. That could change in Oregon in the next couple of weeks. Just imagine that, you know, the typical pattern here is that they have a few cases and then it hockey sticks. And then once it hockey sticks in some of these larger cities, that's when they close everything down. And right now, you know, we're in the pattern where it's building, but it's not deemed out of control. When it starts to feel like that, then you might have the city of Portland mayor, who seems to be pretty aggressive about this, closed city and deem our activities non-essential. Where the state might be a week or 2 later, you never know, right? Any of those scenarios could unfold. So to that end, if you have that in mind and you tell your sellers that, look, this is a race against the clock, we've got to get these activities done, can you convince your sellers to get a home inspection done now? And if an offer comes in, you can share it with the borrower. Maybe the borrower, depending on the home, will lift that contingency, and depending on the report. At the very least, with contractors working, if your owners can afford it, you can get the repairs done while you're listing it on the market. So you get a home inspection done, it goes on the market, and now you're having the moss taken care of, you're fixing the dry rot, you're ordering the windows with failed seals to be repaired, you're getting furnaces checked. All those activities right now are going to grease the skids to get your transaction closed sooner, which you know is in the interests of the buyers and the sellers. So those are all really good ideas that we need to be focused on.
Yeah, that's great. So along those lines, you know, there's going to be a lot of things about our business that's going to be different moving forward. And like Dwight just said, maybe the sequence in which you do things is going to be different. So today on the call, that's going to be our main topic of bulletproofing your business. And that means bulletproofing the transactions you're in, bulletproofing your relationships with your clients, and just making sure that you come out of this strong on the other end. If any of you jumped on, there was one of the Pivot Shift live streams yesterday. They talked about some of these tips. So we're going to share some of those, as well as just some different things just from our market center. So please jump in anytime if you have something to add. But I mean, the number one thing is we have to focus on the things that we can control. There's so many things right now that we cannot control. So let's really hone in and focus on the things that we can control. And then Heather, you want to kick us off in this part?
Sure. So what Gary is really trying to emphasize with all of us on our calls and with all of our agents is that we need to be leading with our hearts. And in regards to your clients, you're just going to communicate with them very frequently, empathetically, and in thoughtful ways. There was a call I watched that had Wendy Pappas on, and she sent out like 50 texts to people, and all they were was just like, how are you? I've been thinking about you. And she got just a ton of responses where people just were so grateful that she reached out in a thoughtful way. Had nothing to do with real estate. She's just checking on them. But it did generate some real estate conversations once they started communicating back and forth. But really, people just want to know that we care. And then the big challenge for that is that we have to manage our fear and our uncertainty and project calmness. There is a lot of opportunity right now with the market, but there's a lot of uncertainty, but we don't want to project any of that with the clients. So have any of you guys been having conversations with your clients where you're being the voice of reason right now?
I'll start. I love to talk. Oh no, someone else. Go ahead.
Yeah, let Megan.
I've just had a number of conversations, just kind of those check-ins, and almost everyone is asking me how I'm doing, which is very, very nice to hear that other people care what's happening with us. And everybody's surprised to hear that the market is still moving quite a bit. So I think sharing that information, I don't like, obviously being tactful, not telling people who might be losing their jobs to go buy a house, but just making sure people know that it is still moving. We're not in a standstill. Fortunately, in Oregon, we are considered essential, like was mentioned before. So making sure that people know that like things are happening. I just repeated myself a bunch, but that like it's not, we're not all just laying there dead.
Yeah, totally. That was
I've been watching a lot of Walking Dead.
that was on one of our calls earlier too, was just communicating with people that even in the last massive housing recession, business did not completely stop. Yeah, it was drastically reduced, but business was still happening. Houses are still selling.
And it's important to note that in the last 5 recessions, in 3 of them, the housing market increased. I think that's really important, that the housing market doesn't necessarily follow the stock market. So like knowing that information and being able to share it with your folks is super key right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I talk?
Sure. Hi, Denise.
I didn't want to talk over anyone. I wasn't sure how this works yet. So I've had a couple of those conversations also with our clients. And I mean, what I'm telling people, I'm looking for an investment, you know, personally. This is the time to buy. You know, we all know the rules of finance. You buy low, you sell high. And so, and I also have a rental property that I'm trying to sell, and I'm going to 1031 that into another investment. We have movement. We closed on a $2 million building last week. We have another one, another $2 million building fell out of contract, and immediately is going to go back under contract again with another group. So we see activity. We're feeling pretty comfortable. You know, it's a shift in how we do business. We do things differently. Now, instead of coming into the office every morning and having our little meeting with our team, you know, just us, we get on Zoom 9 o'clock every morning, 5 o'clock, end of the day, you know, how'd the day go? Did we accomplish our goals? Next day we get up, what are the goals for the day? So we do things a little bit differently. We ramped up marketing. That's been helpful. We went out and gathered a list of 5,000 commercial building owners in the Portland metro area. And of course, all of those lists from title, coming from the title company, are all under LLCs. We're going through extra painstaking, just really long, tireless work on Alyssa's part to convert those LLCs into actual names, and sending out mailers. We just sent out 1,000 mailers. In the first batch, we have 4 more mailers of 1,000 to go. Ended up with 3 sellers. And so 3 is a good number. 3 is a great number. And so we can take that number and extrapolate times 5 mailers. That's 15 new clients, you know, that we can pick up. So it's a matter of being innovative and doing things differently and thinking outside of the box. And I would agree with, I think it was Corinne that said, we need to pay attention to our bubble, you know, our team, our bubble, what we have control over, what is in our circle, and that's really all we can do. And we can tell our team members, you're safe. You know, you have a job, you're safe, we're good, we're moving forward with business, and that's all you can pay attention to, because we can all get a little bit freaked out from everything else going on in the world, but we can take our families, our employees, our clients, and just the things that are within our control. And I think it's a lot more comforting to be able to do that and not worry about 1,000 things going on. So we're feeling pretty good. That's where we're at.
So I would like to augment on that. Thank you so much, Denise. So obviously, Denise is putting her team's pedal to the metal. You are going for it. And I will tell you, when I was 21, it was 1981. And that's when interest rates went to 18%. So I've been through a lot of these downturns. And I've said this before on the calls. This is when you capture clients. This is when you create you build your market share. And you build, these are your clients for life. I still have clients from the 80s. And so, Denise is the example of what we all need to be doing. Crazy mail outs. Are you guys, are you working fewer hours? Of course not, right? You are going for it, and you're going to pick up 50 new clients. And so Denise, what's your expectation, in the next 6 months for real estate prices, commercial real estate prices? What are you having conversations about with your buyers?
It's going to be, some of it's going to hold steady. It depends on the asset class. So retail is going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Distribution, light industrial, it's going to hold the pricing. We're going to see some opportunistic buying, unfortunately. This is the time where banks call loans. So just a little bit about investment, commercial investment property for all of you, where a difference from residential is that the way that a bank will define the value of a building is they take the income minus the expenses, and that's the NOI. So if the income on that property drops because maybe the tenants just abandoned ship, they left, they couldn't pay it, maybe you need to decrease your rent rate so that you can have tenants, so you have some sort of an income stream. A bank can come in and demand the numbers on that. All right, let's see your income and expenses on that. And this is what happened in 2008. They determine that building value has somehow dropped because your income has dropped on it. And they'll say, oh, you have a note on this building for $4 million. But we can determine now in these times, your building is really only worth $2 million. And they call the note on that additional $2 million. And if you don't have it, you lose the building. And we found there was a bunch of commercial building owners that lost their buildings in 2008 because of that. So due to that, there will be some opportunistic purchasing. It's good news for investment buyers, unfortunately. It's a time where you really don't want to be overextending yourself. You want to make sure you can afford what you're purchasing, but it's a great time to buy. It's a great time to trade property. If you know what you're doing, which a lot of people who are in commercial buying and selling, they know what they're doing. It's a good time. It's comfortable. You know what you're doing. You understand the asset classes. You know what a good value is. You're not going to overpay. So it's good and bad, depending on what situation you're in. I can't hear you, Dwight. I can see your lips moving, but I think I'm still on the talk. I'll mute myself, but you have to turn yourself on.
Somehow, I got muted. Did you do that for me? Thanks, Austin. Hey, so I have one more question. So what happens when the cap rates, just speak to this for a minute or two. What happens when the cap rates are 4, 5, 6%? People are buying these buildings, they're buying their income properties based on these cap rates, and then we hit something like this. What's happening?
So just a little background for everybody on a cap rate, and what Dwight's talking about is that, so we start again with the NOI, which is the income minus the expenses. And that gives you the net operating income, the NOI, and you divide that number by a cap rate. And The cap rate is just something that the market determines. So we know, like for instance, in healthy multifamily, brand new construction, you can see cap rates as low as 4%. So if you take that NOI and you divide it by 4%, you're going to get a pretty high number. I should probably just work out a couple here just for the sake of the conversation. Hang on, let me just do this really quick for you. Let's say you have just for raw numbers, you have a $100,000 building, you have a 4% cap rate on it. Your building is worth 2.5 million, okay? But if you take that $100,000 building and you get into a distressed time right now, and you're like, oh, maybe we're not going to do a 4% cap, we're going to do a 6% cap now because we've determined that the market value has changed on it. Now that building's only worth 1.6. So the cap rate changes the value on the building. It depends on the asset class and the different type of building. When you have a healthy economy, you'll see 4, 5, and 6%. When you see a decreased, a distressed economy, we'll end up seeing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. So where you may have been able to purchase something for a higher amount of money, like a 5 or a 6 cap, when it was healthy 6 months ago, you might be able to get that same property for an 8% cap. And suddenly you're getting a discount on that by hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is why it is a good time to purchase commercial real estate, because those cap rates in certain asset classes will go up.
And so what happens to that investor that bought an apartment building in Multnomah County with a 5% cap rate, and now maybe it was 40 units and now 15 of them can't pay? What happens to their income?
They're going to have a hard time, because if they were valuing that building based on $1,800 a month rent rates, and now we're finding there's a bunch of folks out there that can only afford to pay $1,200 in rent, so it's going to be market driven vacancies, and you have to lower that amount of money that you're willing to rent your apartment out for. So you got less income, cap rate of the 5% now went up to 6%, 6.5 maybe even, it changes that number dramatically. And if you've got an investor who's overextended himself in that apartment building and suddenly he's devalued the building because of rent rates and higher vacancies and having to lower the rent rates, those folks are going to be in trouble. And those are the folks that are going to be out doing fire sales because they don't want the bank to take it, and they would rather just like wash their hands and just be done with it.
Okay, one more question. I hope you don't get mad at me, Tanya.
No,
This is a very good line. Okay, so this is for our residential brokers specifically. What would you say if someone called you and said, hey, I have 3 rental houses, and I'm thinking that this might be a really, really good time to exchange up into other kinds of income property, maybe fourplexes, maybe office buildings, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And I'm thinking maybe we should put these on the market. Maybe we'll do one in May, one in June, one in July. And let's say they take an average of 60 days to sell and 30 days to close. So that gets you in the fall. What's the strategy for that owner that you're telling them in terms of their 6-month period to close on a 1031? Are you following me?
You're out of your mind.
Well, no, think about this. So the point is, and I know Denise knows this, but I just probably confused her totally. So if you sell a house and it closes September 1, you now have 6 months. You have 45 days to identify your optional property. So you're looking in September and October, and you have 6 months to close. So that means you go all the way through the winter before you have to close. And so if you've identified the correct properties, the opportunities to make better deals come from, number one, what Denise just elaborated on, which is what's going on with cap rates and vacancies and the whole investment market. But number two, if it gets worse, more and more of these are going to start to show up. So your selections will be better. So I guess, Denise, would you tell that owner, let's get them on the market right now and get them sold and do some exchanging?
Absolutely. We actually have a couple of building owners that are looking for properties to exchange into, and that's a big part of the mix. There's like 3 of them hot for today that we're looking for specifically because it's the only way that we can get them to sell their property is to identify a property to exchange into. And so the way that this works, I don't know if you're all familiar with, is 1031 a pretty common phrase in the residential world or not?
For investors, there's lots of investors that own single family homes.
And so most of the folks on this call understand what a 1031 is?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So yeah, it's definitely a time to do an exchange. And that is specifically what I'm doing personally, selling one property and going to exchange into another and looking for an opportunistic building to exchange into. This is the time to buy. It really is. And take a look at it. You know, you don't want to overextend yourself. You don't want to go out on a limb. But if you have something that you want to dump and get into something else, there's good deals to be made. One of them we're looking at right now, personally, just right off the bat, I can see hundreds of thousands of dollars that this guy is the building's undervalued of what he wants to sell it for. I'm like, I could actually like take this building, buy it, and hold on to it for 6 months, no problem. Not going to lose any money on this, no way, no how. And we'll be able to turn around and flip this for a couple $100,000 6 months downstream. And we're going to see more and more opportunities like that, especially like this mailer that we sent out. Interestingly, because it targets the building owners, we're not interacting with brokers. So we're finding a bunch of off-market deals. All of these guys now, they're sitting around at home, they have time to spare, and they're opening up their mail. And they're going, well, I kind of have thought about what's the value of my building. Maybe I'll just give this broker a call and have a conversation with her. So we're finding off-market deals that are not listed, which is the other interesting byproduct of our marketing efforts.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for all that information.
Yeah, and one thing that makes you so trustworthy, Denise, is because you're speaking to us with such conviction about the investment properties and knowledge. So as everyone who does residential speaks to their investor clients, having that confidence to speak to where the market is at and how things are going and the opportunities that exist makes you more trustworthy with your clients. It's believable, and especially sharing that personal story, Denise, of I'm buying a multifamily place right now too. So those personal stories, you can work those in, are going to really strengthen those relationships and the trust with your clients.
Thank you.
Let's switch gears a little bit and just talk about some more things that we can do to protect our transactions that we're in. So one thing that's going to be more important now than ever is making sure we're working with good vendors and partners. So if you have deals in escrow, making sure we're using the good escrow and title companies, making sure we're using lenders we trust, making sure we're asking the right questions about the loans and what are closing dates and all of that. So that's going to be really important. And then also maintaining that relationship with your clients, thinking about you're building, no matter what, your reputation, right? So like on the other side of this, 3 months, 6 months down the road, you want to have those caring, strong relationships with your clients. So, because you're building those relationships so that then if things do start to go awry, rather than terminate, maybe you can convince your clients to suspend it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to see what happens if they are uncertain about things. So just different conversations with your clients. But the first part of that is you have to have a good relationship and they have to trust you, right? And then another part of that is asking them when they're making decisions of why they want to terminate, like really understanding their motivations. And if you're understanding your motivations of your buyers and sellers from the beginning, that will help you understand it throughout the transaction and what's going to be important throughout it. So if anyone has anything to add as far as like the relationships that you're forming, and I know we've kind of shared some of this, especially like Megan coming from that place of caring, that is going to really shine through with your clients. Does anyone else have anything to add as far as caring and building those relationships during this time? All right. pretty straightforward.
I'd
Oh.
like to say one thing about it.
Yeah.
That, this is really the time to reach out to the people that need help. And I mean, we all know that. We've had this is a good example. We've had a bunch of contractors in our house this week. We had remodel stuff already in the works. Like the flooring was like a big, huge pile of mess in our formal living room. Had to like get the flooring laid. We just proceeded. We have flooring and painters and electricians. Keeping our social distancing, wiping down the house 4 times a day, but making them wash their hands when they walk in the house, and they're all good with it. They're happy that we're being so clean and diligent. But it's caring for those around us too, and it's saying, it's hearing their stories, like of their desperation, like they know other contractors that have just completely lost all of their work, like completely. Like last week was the last week of whatever. A lot of the subs are still working, but people in their sphere stopped working last week, living paycheck to paycheck, last amount of money, desperate, don't know where they're going to get food, don't know what they're doing for housing or in their bubble. It's listening, and it doesn't mean that we're like looking for a real estate deal at the end of the road, because especially with the folks that I was talking to or contractors in our house, that's not going to happen. And, and that can't be our motivation, but it's reaching out to people and just having people feel heard, and understanding like, where can we help? Maybe it's volunteering at the food bank. We suit up and we put on our gloves and we put on our hat and we like put on our like sort of hazmat suit, and we go down there and volunteer. Or we just, and not really necessarily with thought in mind of finding a house or doing a transaction, or selling a commercial property or any of that, but it's our way of just reaching out, being involved. And I think that's how we connect with people and make them feel heard and not isolated and not afraid, and just like take a deep breath, like everything will be okay, and figuring out how we can contribute. So and that's what I'm personally trying to do, just making sure all my peeps in my circle are all safe and feeling calm, and finding other ways to reach out to other people too, and spreading that message.
I also would suggest what we've been doing is we've been sending out personalized emails, more personalized emails that are less business-like and more personal, saying, here's what I'm kind of experienced. Things are still moving, and we can talk. How are you guys doing? How are you faring? And what are you guys doing for fun? To create an open conversation with those guys that are your clients. And, Dwight had indicated, he's got guys from the 80s. Well, I know that I'm just talking with guys and saying, hey, what's going on today? What are you doing today to entertain yourself? Not even talking about real estate all that much, and just showing them I'm here and that everything's okay, and giving them a little confidence that everything's going to be okay. It's a good opportunity to create a long-term relationship.
Great. Thanks, Denise and Gary. The relationships are at the center of this. One other thing that makes you establish that trust, though, is really having the knowledge of being a leader. And, Megan was rattling off some stats. Denise, you know them too. So it's important that we all know what is going on with our state and local regulations and guidelines, as well as our own market centers. And Mike is working on typing up our market center specific guidelines, which should be out to you guys at the end of the day today. But I want to turn it over to Mike to speak a little bit more about that. And that goes into, Peter, what you brought up earlier about what kinds of things are we, if we have a listing and buyers are coming in, what kinds of things are we requiring? What guidelines are we setting? What expectations are we laying out? Just so that everyone is on the same page and there's no, you can't be liable for not taking precautions on the back end.
Good morning. Yeah, we're working on a policy summary that'll sort of give you some guidelines of both what's required by law and then also what is recommended. And that includes hopefully some recommendations of what to do when you're in a transaction and somebody wants to get out or has a certain amount of fear. And I think coming at it from a solution-based head really helps in most of the issues that are out there right now. Spent a great deal of time on the phone last night and yesterday afternoon, just talking about specifically about that issue is find out what somebody's fear is and then find a solution for it. And hopefully there's a ton of things that are out there right now. Hopefully this policy summary is out there to try to guide you of what your options are and what's best for your clients. So hopefully we'll have it out. The plan is to have it out by the end of the day, maybe first thing in the morning after a couple of other team members take a look at it and review it and see if they have anything to add or suggestions.
Thanks, Mike. And I think Chris, you had suggested something, a buyer survey that you had seen out in the field. And is Austin, are you working on that, making that a form for us?
Yes, so I'm working on it. It's almost done. And I'll be sending it out. Tanya and I are working on it, and we'll see. As soon as it's done, I think probably get it over to you, Mike. Make sure that it's good, that works, and then we'll get it to you guys through some means, either through email or through the Facebook page, things like that, where you can get it on a Google Drive. You'll be able to copy it and customize it the way you may want, and then you'll be able to send it out to people and have them react to it, or I guess respond with it, and you get the forms completed. So yeah.
Can you share some of those questions, like off the top of your head, if you remember? Some of them are like,
yeah, I can.
Has the buyer been sick recently? Those types of things.
Yeah, here, actually, I could probably pull it up. It might be easier. And I can share this real quick. Share screen. Okay, so it's just this right here. It's just gonna be, health survey. There's just a handful of questions. What's your first and last name, just in case you get a number of them. So it's not anonymous, you know who's answering it. Have you met these buyers before? Just simple yes or no questions. Have you verified they have not traveled to increased risk areas of the coronavirus? Have you confirmed that your buyers will not be touring the home if anyone in their party has any cold, flu, respiratory compromise symptoms? And then there will be as well at the bottom a non-required section, but you can just click on the link itself here, and this will bring you up to, hopefully, the form that you'd be able to download, print out, and use for whatever. So that's all there for you when you need it. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And these are, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong on this, these are going to be guidelines. We're not required to have our clients sign the form. Is that correct?
At the moment, that's correct. I am highly recommending that they do have the last form that Austin showed, which is literally is a permission slip to show somebody's home, and it protects us a little bit about, in the event somebody were to get sick from the showing or whatever, they understand the risk. But that it's going to be a recommendation, not a compliance regulation. But that's as of today. With these policies, it's sort of trying to hit a moving target. And as we all know, literally we're almost hour to hour on some issues, which may very well affect how we do that.
Mike, before you get off, would you address what you told us this morning on the staff meeting about neighbors that are calling you regarding traffic going through homes?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the calls I was working with yesterday. Everybody has a different position in the market as far as how they see how clamped down you're going to be. Do you not allow anybody out of the house, or do we do business as usual, but be careful? The one issue that we had is that a neighbor called and said, "Oh, gee, what are you doing? We have this house across the street that's vacant, and there's tons of people going through that house, and that isn't really adhering to the spirit of the edict that came down from Governor Brown." And she was pretty upset, and it's just sort of that comes with it, and you got to watch those things, because sometimes that opinion is strong enough that then somebody ends up going out on social media and getting crazed and saying things that may or may not be true, but certainly by their perspective. So I think we have to be careful in how we show and how we protect the clients out there.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike. And Robin asked a question in the chat box about how people are handling vacant showings, and are you having gloves and disinfectants? Are you leaving instructions? So let's open the floor to what people are doing for that. But that will fit into the guidelines as well as just as far as the communication and the expectations. But we'd love to hear what other people are doing.
So the listing that I just set live this morning, I've got rubber gloves and wipes and hand sanitizer, and I've got really specific instructions for people to call before showing it to talk about, you know, all the lights are going to be on. You don't need to touch anything except the doorknob, and just wipe down the doorknob before and after. We're also asking that we see pre-approval before showings. And then Matterport, asking that they look at the Matterport before touring, and also reviewing the floor plan, so that we just eliminate anybody that is kind of tire kicking.
Thanks, Jenny. And Heidi, you can unmute if you want to share. Otherwise, she typed in yes, and an instruction sheet, bleach wipes, and hand sanitizer. And Connie asked, where are you guys getting supplies that are in high demand?
I had some extra. I had like an extra canister of wipes and some hand sanitizer. So it's a good thing that I don't have very many listings right now, because I only had enough for 2 houses. So yeah, I just used what I had.
Thanks, Jenny. I know I ordered some hand sanitizer the other day from Bath and Body Works. They had like fruity flavors, so they still had it. So just throwing that out there too.
Albertsons had gloves the other day when I was there. So still able to find those.
That's great. All right.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Am I muted?
No.
Oh, okay. We have one coming online, and based on what Mike said this morning, it's a vacant house in a $1 million neighborhood. Based on what Mike said this morning, I'm going to write a letter, and we're going to mail it out to all of the neighbors within view of this house, so that if they see traffic going in and out, they're not concerned. I think that's a great way to be proactive. I just want to explain to them the process that we're going through to protect people. Hopefully that'll, calm any. I know I'll get calls. Now that he said that, I thought, oh, okay, I have this one coming online, and this is the kind of neighborhood where multiple people will call me and complain. So I'm going to do that proactively. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the closet doors open and some cupboard doors open, and just ask the people, not to open anything else that's not open. I think I'm going to try that. So we'll see if it works.
One of the suggestions might be that the buyers don't touch anything themselves, and it's all controlled by opening doors, etc., by the agent, and requiring them to do the touch. So it's therefore they can wear gloves, and they can walk through the house and open it and show it to somebody, but you don't have to worry about anything left on doorknobs and have to wipe down the entire house after a showing.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's great. And then think about that too. You're writing all the neighbors a card or a letter, and you're touching them from a place of caring. And it's still you, it's still your reputation that you're spreading within that community. Even though you're not directly asking for business, they're seeing that, and they're seeing that you're coming from a good place. So that's very effective on a lot of different levels. We have about 8 minutes left. So let's touch base on if anyone else has any experiences or best practices regarding specifically buyers and sellers right now. pertaining to, you know, any of the guidelines or things that you're seeing, and just open that conversation up.
My sellers are saying get the home sold. They're wanting to get it sold. So they just want me to give them guidance on how we can do it safely.
Awesome. And that guidance is going to be important in that form that Mike's working on, just so we know that we're advising and communicating with our listings.
Linda, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. I'm learning a lot this week about jumbo loans. And so going forward with listings that have buyers that fall into the jumbo category, there's really only 3 or 4 lenders in the marketplace right now. And so anybody that comes in with those pre-approvals from mortgage broker, we are asking people to get pre-approved with shockingly B of A, Wells Fargo, On Point, and possibly Chase. I haven't talked to Chase yet, but the other 3 are all doing jumbo loans, and nobody else is.
Have you updated with Keller Mortgage? Just 2 days ago, they still said they were doing them with 20% down.
Yeah, I did talk to them, and he said he could possibly get something through with 20% down. But I'm not feeling entirely comfortable with anybody that is not portfolioing their loans, we need to have somebody that's really going to hang on to that paper. And it's not that I don't want to use Keller Mortgage, but these sellers are, they're kind of freaking out a little bit. So I want to go somewhere, have those buyers go somewhere that we know we can get that deal through.
I think that's super important right now because if you're inclined and you want to come from a place of knowing, there's plenty of videos right now showing up on what's happening with the Fed. And so they learned a big fat lesson in 2008 by not moving quickly enough to infuse money into the banks to keep all these systems going. And so then the banks started shutting down everything, car loans, credit cards, the whole thing. Well, right now the Fed has committed trillions, and people like Wells, Chase, B of A, the large banks and investment houses have direct pipelines into the Fed account. So the Fed will say, Monday, oh, hey, here's an extra $100 billion, keep those mortgages funded. And so the smaller companies are probably not going to be able to do that. They're not going to have the pipeline right to the Fed. I'm not sure how On Point is doing it. They might have an investor that they lined up that was willing to take Portland mortgages. You just never know. But this is what happened back in 2008. Ultimately, what I recall was the first company that came back to the jumbo market was Wells Fargo. And that was after I lost all my jumbo deals in 2008. And then like 3 to 4 months later, Wells Fargo came out with I want to say it might have even been 30% down jumbo, but it was no less than 20% down. And they came out and, obviously the government needed to keep that market going because that's your Seattle, that's your San Francisco, LA, New York, all the big cities, because, there's plenty of product, above the jumbo range. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Joy. This was a great discussion today. So on Friday, we're going to continue this same discussion similarly as far as bulletproofing your business and what things we can be doing today to make sure our transactions are staying together that we're in and we're setting the stage for the future. A couple housekeeping things. We have Bold Pivot coming up. Melanie, do you want to say a couple words about that?
Hi, everyone. Yes, we have Bold Pivot coming up May 5th. I've sent out a link both on the group text, office text, and send an email. I know Denise and Kathy Render, who were originally signed up for Bold 2.0, immediately, said, yes, sign me up for Bold Pivot. And we have, I believe, 6 people registered right now today. So watch for that link. If you have any questions, let me know. It's going to be up to the minute scripts and information that you can use today in your business. So it's going to be really valuable. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, starting May 5th from 12 to 2 p.m.
Thanks, Mel. And so, yeah, it's 12 to 2 p.m. So it's not a huge time commitment each day, and it should be beneficial. So if you're interested in that, please sign up for that. And then Josh from Academy chatted in that they are doing jumbos right now too. They have 3 people that they're working with. Josh, do you want to add anything on that real quick?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we still have 3 jumbo lines that we're lending through that have committed to continuing business with us. One of them is Wells, and the other one's Chase, and the other one is BB&T, which we've had great, strong relationships with in the past. So Dwight brought this up earlier the other day as well about the liquidity issues with some of the mortgage companies out there. That's not an issue that we face, and we've got a strong liquidity position. So with that, we've been able to secure these relationships with our investors, and as well as some of these jumbo products for now. So if there's any questions, feel free for anybody to reach out. In addition to that, we can also do a conforming first and a second. We still have 2 options for doing a second. So up to 10% down, somebody could do for a jumbo style purchase with a conforming first and a second. So if anybody wants to run any scenarios by me, even if it's not something we end up being able to do, please reach out. I'm happy to help and help people in the right direction if it's not something that we can do.
And I would like to add something right here. This kind of a market is exactly why we have partnered with someone like Academy. So if you've been doing loans with some other company and suddenly their lines get cut off because they chose secondary market people that don't have the right connections to keep funded, this is why we have Academy. And so when you have a client, the beauty of working with Academy and Josh is when you have a client and you're not quite sure what they can qualify for, maybe they own their own business, maybe it's a restaurant, maybe it's a chain of restaurants, who knows? You make an application with someone like Josh at Academy, and they're going to be able to reach out to multiple different companies that can fund that loan and take that loan. And so they will help you place your loan versus other companies that will say, hey, sorry, we can't do your loan, but maybe you could send it to Wells Fargo and work with somebody there that you don't even know, and there's 150 loans in front of you. So these are when relationships matters, folks, and this is when having a relationship with Josh and Academy is going to matter. This is exactly why I wanted to partner with someone like Academy that's proven that they know how to get through a down market.
Yes, great point, Dwight. Before we get off, I just want to remind everyone tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we're going to have a virtual happy hour. So please jump on. It will be casual. So if your dog wants to join on your lap, kids running around, it will be informal, just so we can all feel connected. Bring your beverage of choice. And then we'll be back on this call on Friday. And we've had such great attendance and such great conversations. I hope we can keep this up. And Tanya will get more into some of the nitty-gritty suggestions to keep your business moving forward on Friday. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Hi,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you.